Aria woke up on the cold metal floor. Her head hurt. Her arms felt heavy. When she opened her eyes, she saw nothing but darkness around her. A dim red light blinked on the wall above her. The air smelled old, like rust and fear. She sat up slowly. Her hands were bruised. She remembered the last thing: bright lights, shouting, and being dragged by tall creatures with sharp armor and glowing blue eyes. The Varnex, that was their name. They were not human. They didn't speak. They only stared and took dart now. She was here. The room was not a room. It was a cell. The walls were black and smooth. One wall had metal bars, thick and strange. There were no windows, no bed, no camera she could see. Only silence. Then she heard it. A low breathing sound. Her heart jumped. It came from the far corner of the cell. She couldn't see anything clearly, but some shape was there. Big, sitting in the shadows, not moving. She stood up fast and backed against the wall. Her breath came quick. "Who's there?" she said, her voice shaking. No answer, just breathing. She searched the wall behind her. No weapons, nothing to break, just smooth stone. Her eyes tried to adjust. The creature was still there, still watching, still breathing. A voice echoed outside, loud, cold. "Let the human stay with the beast. If it eats her, good. If not, we'll feed her again." Footsteps. Then silence again. She stared at the dark shape. Her hands were shaking now. What are you?" she whispered. Then the shape moved. That stood up slowly, not fast, not like a predator. It was tall, maybe 7 feet. Its arms were long, its legs bent in strange ways. But it walked on 2 feet, like a person that came a little closer. She stepped back, but the wall stopped her. There was no more space. It didn't attack. Instead, it stopped a few feet away. Its head tilted, curious. Then it raised one long arm and touched its chest with 3 fingers. She stared. It then slowly touched its head, and then her, softly, like saying, "Me, you." She was frozen. You understand me?" she asked. No words, but it nodded, slowly, carefully. Then it did something strange. It sat down, legs crossed, hands resting on its knees, like it was waiting. Aria stayed where she was. Her heart was still racing, but the fear was changing. She didn't feel like prey anymore. The creature was not acting like a killer. It was watching her like it was waiting for something else. Then it did one more thing. It pushed something toward her. A small metal bowl. It had water. She blinked, hesitated, then walked slowly forward. Step by step, she took the bowl, sniffed it. Clean water. She drank fast. When she looked up, the creature had moved back. It was in the dark again. She sat down near the wall. Not too close, but not far. "Thank you," she said. The creature made a soft sound, like a hum. Minutes passed, maybe hours. She finally whispered, "Why are you here? Did they lock you up too?" It said nothing, but then it slowly reached one arm forward, stopped, and opened its hand. She looked at it. The fingers were long, but not sharp. The skin was black and rough, but not slimy. She hesitated. Then she reached forward. Their fingers touched, and in that moment, something strange happened. Not pain, not fear, but warmth. Like a memory she couldn't remember. Like something deep inside her recognized it. The creature made a soft sound again, and for the first time she saw its eyes. Not red, not glowing, just ... tired, like it had been alone for a long time. Aria looked down. She felt tears in her eyes. "I don't know what you are," she said, "but I don't think you're the monster they say you are." Behind them, the red light blinked again. The walls stayed silent. The air stayed cold. But in that cell, 2 prisoners, human and not, sat quietly, hand to hand, and the creature, once feared and hated, held no anger in its touch, only peace. But outside that cell, others were watching, and they were not pleased. The next few hours passed slowly. The air in the cell stayed cold and heavy, but something had changed between Aria and the creature. It didn't try to hurt her. It didn't move unless she moved first. It only sat there, watching her with calm eyes. Aria didn't sleep. She stayed close to the wall, looking at the creature in the dark. She had so many questions but no answers. "What's your name?" she asked softly. The creature looked at her. Then it tilted its head slightly. It didn't understand her words. Aria thought for a second. She pointed at herself and said, "Aria." She pointed again. Firmer, "Aria." The creature blinked. Then, slowly, it touched its own chest. Its voice was low and strange, like a deep hum. "Saron," it said. Aria's eyes widened a little. "Saron, that's your name?" It nodded. Once, even though they didn't speak the same language, it felt like a wall between them was starting to fall. Aria didn't feel alone anymore. Not truly. She watched as Saron moved to a corner of the cell. It reached under a loose stone and pulled out a small object wrapped in torn cloth. It opened the cloth and showed her a piece of metal. It looked old, rusty, but it had small shapes carved into its symbols. She didn't know. Saron placed the object carefully on the ground between them. Aria looked at it, then at him. "You kept this safe?" The creature gave a low sound that almost sounded like a yes. She leaned closer, studying the object. It looked like some kind of badge or medal, maybe from another time, another war. Suddenly Saron stood. It moved to the wall and began to draw something with its claw. Slowly, carefully. Lines formed. Shapes. Symbols. Aria stood too, curious. The creature was drawing a planet, a star, then ships, then humans and monsters, and fire, a war. It looked back at her, waiting to see if she understood you. You were in a war, she guessed. It nodded. Were you made for it? She asked, voice soft. Saran didn't answer. But the way his eyes lowered told her everything. He had been created, not born. A weapon. Something built to fight. Suddenly, loud voices echoed outside the cell. Guards, open cell 9. The beast hasn't eaten the girl yet. The voice was cruel. The words sharp. Aria jumped, heart pounding. She looked at Saran. He stood still, eyes fixed on the door. The metal door opened slowly. Light spilled into the cell. 3 Varnex guards stepped in, tall, cold. One held a stun stick, crackling with blue sparks. Another had a plasma blade. Aria backed away. She's still alive. One of them growled. Maybe the beast is broken. We'll fix that, the leader said. He stepped forward and hit Soren hard in the side with a stick. Sparks flew. Soren fell to one knee but made no sound. Stop it, Aria shouted. He didn't hurt me. The guards laughed. Not yet, one said, but it will. Another guard grabbed Aria's arm. She tried to pull away. Suddenly a deep growl filled the cell. Soren stood. His eyes were glowing now. He wasn't silent anymore. The guard turned, just in time to see Saran rush forward. With one powerful arm, he threw the guard into the wall. The sound of bone cracking echoed loud. The other 2 guards stepped back in shock. Saran stood in front of Aria, shielding her with his body. Stay behind me, he said. Aria froze. She understood the words. He had spoken her language. The guards were shouting now, calling for backup. Soren looked back at her. Run when I say. More Varnex were coming. Heavy boots could be heard down the hall. The lights in the prison flickered suddenly. A scream rang out, not from Saran or Aria but from outside the cell. A guard was dragged into the darkness by something fast and unseen. Then another screamed on in silence. Aria stared at the hallway, her voice shaking. What was that? Soren didn't answer. He just pulled her close, his body tense. Not me, he said. Not them. She realized what he meant. Something else was in this prison. Something even the Varnex feared. The cell door was still open, but neither of them moved. Saran stepped forward slowly and sniffed the air. Danger, he whispered. Aria's throat went dry. She looked around, eyes wide. First the Varnex, now another unknown creature. How many monsters did they make? She whispered. Sa. Single quotes. Ren turned to her and said one word. Too many. The prison halls were no longer quiet. Something had changed. The screams of the guards had faded, but the fear still hung in the air. Thick, white fog now crept into the hallway like a living thing, sliding over the cold floor, reaching into every corner. Aria stood at the cell door, frozen. Her heart was pounding. She could see nothing through the fog. What is that? She whispered. Soren stood beside her, tall and still, staring into the mist. It was left here, he said in a deep voice. Before me. Before them. His words made her skin crawl. You mean it's not Varnex? Soren shook his head. Older, woken by pain. It feeds on fear. Suddenly the lights in the hallway flickered again, then went out completely. Everything was black except the red glow from inside the cell and the thick white fog glowing faintly on its own. Then a soft sound. Drip, drip, drip. Something was moving, not walking, crawling. Aria stepped back. Soren held out one arm to shield her from the fog. A strange shape began to appear. Long arms, long fingers, no face, just smooth skin stretched over its head like it was born from shadows. Its body moved like it had no bones. Saran growled low. Stay behind me, do not speak. The creature in the fog stopped. It raised its head. Then it made a sound, not a scream, not a growl, but a whisper that filled the entire hallway like it was inside Aria's mind, flesh, warmth, memory. Aria covered her ears. The sound wasn't loud, but it hurt. Sa. Ren stepped forward. The whisper stopped. The faceless creature moved back, not afraid, curious. Soren took one step closer again. This time, the fog began to pull away. Slowly the faceless thing turned and vanished into the white mist. Gone. Aria stood in shock. What was that? Soren looked at her. It sleeps in the broken walls. It feeds when blood is spilled. The Varnex locked it here. To punish. Aria stared into the hallway. They're insane. Soren nodded. Yes. Suddenly a noise came from another cell, banging, shouting, then a human voice. Hey, somebody out there. Aria turned. Her eyes went wide. That's a human. She rushed into the hallway before Soren could stop her. The fog was thinner now, but still covered the ground. She followed the voice. Another cell. Bars rusted and old. Inside were 2 men and a woman. Thin, dirty, weak but alive. Aria gasped. Humans, how long have you been here? One man stepped forward. Too long. Who are you? I'm Aria. I was captured. But we can help each other. She started to say, but stopped when she saw their faces. They were staring behind her. She turned. Soren was there. Tall, silent, shadowy. One of the humans raised his hands in fear. No, stay away. It's okay, Aria said quickly. He saved me. The woman shouted. It's one of their monsters. It killed people. No, Aria said. He protected me. He's not like them. But they didn't believe her. The younger man grabbed a sharp piece of metal from the ground. "We're not dying here like animals." He rushed forward. Saren didn't move. At the last second, Aria stepped between them. "Stop," the man froze. He looked into her eyes. Then, at Saren, the creature didn't growl, didn't lift a hand. Just stood silently, blinking slowly. Aria said, "Look, I don't care what he was made for. He hasn't hurt me. He gave me food, water, he spoke to me." The woman whispered it spoke. "Yes," Aria said. "He has a name." Sara and the humans didn't speak. Slowly they lowered the weapon. "We'll trust him," the older man said, "but only because we don't have a choice." Saren didn't react. He turned and looked down the hall. "Others are waking," he said. "We must move," Aria asked. "What do you mean?" Saron looked at her. "The prison is breaking, and the Varnex will not stay silent." As if on cue, a loud alarm started to ring far above them. Red lights flashed. A mechanical voice echoed through the halls in alien language. The prison was waking up, and so were the monsters. Aria looked at the others. "Come on, we don't have much time." They followed Saren through the fog-filled hall, deeper into the prison toward an unknown path behind them. The whisper returned, but not from a mouth, from inside their minds. "I remember the girl, the light, the warmth." The group moved through the broken prison led by Saran. Aria walked just behind him, her heart pounding. The thick fog was gone now, but the silence had changed. It wasn't peaceful, it was tense. Every step echoed too loudly. Every corner felt like a trap. Behind her, the rescued humans followed. They didn't talk, they didn't trust Saran, but they didn't try to fight either. They had seen enough to stay quiet. The lights above them flickered as the prison systems tried to restart. Sometimes the walls hummed. Sometimes the floor trembled. "This place is falling apart," one man said. Saren stopped near an old metal door. It looked like it hadn't been opened in years. The paint was gone. Rust covered the hinges. He turned and looked at Aria. Inside, she nodded. "What is it?" "Memories," Saren said. He reached forward and placed one large hand on a strange panel next to the door. The lights turned blue. The door clicked. Then it opened. Inside was a small room. Dust floated in the air. Shelves lined the walls, filled with broken tools, devices, and cables. In the center of the room was a round table, and something glowing beneath it. Aria walked in slowly. The room felt heavy, like the air carried pain. "What is this place?" she asked. Saren stepped inside. "It was where I was made." The others stayed at the door. Aria looked around. Then her eyes fell on the glowing thing under the table. It was a strange device, like a stone, but smooth. It pulsed with soft green light. She bent down and touched it. A shock ran through her fingers. Then images. Not from her mind, but from Saran. She saw him standing tall, surrounded by humans in white coats. He was smaller than younger. His skin wasn't rough, it was smoother. His eyes weren't sad, they were curious. Then came the tests, the pain. Needles. Fires. Chains. She saw Varnex soldiers dragging his body. She saw humans shouting, scared of what they had made. He was not born, he was grown, mixed with alien DNA, meant to be a weapon. But he had never wanted that. He only wanted to be seen. The memory ended. Aria gasped and fell back. Saren stepped forward. He knelt down beside her. "Saw," he said softly. She nodded, tears in her eyes. "They made you, then threw you away." "Yes," he said. Aria looked at him. "But you didn't forget." "No," Saren replied. "Even when they erased my mind, something stayed alight. A name, a song." He reached into the dust and pulled out a small object. A broken music chip. He handed it to her. Aria looked at it. She pressed the tiny button. A soft sound came out, old and broken, but still clear. A music box melody. A human lullaby. "Something from Earth," Aria whispered. "Who gave this to you?" "A woman long ago. She called me her son." Aria blinked. "You were someone's child." He nodded. "Before the war. Before they changed me." The others at the door stepped in slowly now, drawn by the sound. The woman among them asked, "Are you saying he was human once?" Aria said, "Part human, enough to remember love." The man with the sharp metal piece looked at the glowing device under the table. "Is this what made you?" "No," Saran said. "It's what I used to remember." The ground shook again. Dust fell from the ceiling. "We can't stay here," Aria said. "We have to move." Soren stood. "There is a passage below. It leads to the older cells. There are escape shafts near there." He pulled a floor panel loose and pointed down. Dark stairs. Old air. No lights. But it was the only path as they climbed down. Aria looked back at the room one last time. She didn't see a lab. She saw a grave. The stairs led to narrow tunnels. Pipes ran along the walls. Strange symbols were painted here and there, warnings in a forgotten language. They reached a larger hall. Broken machines lined the sides. Suddenly, Saren stopped. "What is it?" Aria asked. He pointed ahead. In the center of the hall stood a Varnex general. His armor was black with red markings. His eyes glowed blue. His voice was sharp and cold. "The traitor walks with humans," he said. Daria stood tall. "He protected us. He saved lives." The general laughed. "That was never his purpose." He was built to kill. Saren said nothing. The general raised a weapon. End this failure. Come with me, or I'll burn them all. Soren stepped forward slowly. The others panicked. He's going to betray us, one yelled. But Aria watched Soren carefully. He stopped, then turned. I remember now, he said. What I wanted. He looked at Aria. I'm not a weapon. Then he faced the general. And for the first time, he roared. The tunnel shook. Lights shattered, and the general fired. The blast hit Saren in the chest. A sharp blue light filled the tunnel. Dust flew through the air. Aria and the others dropped to the floor, covering their heads. When the smoke cleared, Saren was still standing, but his body shook. The general raised the weapon again. You were always a mistake, he said coldly. Saren looked up. His chest was burned, skin broken, but his eyes glowed stronger now. You tried to erase me, but I remember. He charged. The general fired again, but Saren moved too fast. He slammed into the Varnex leader, crushing the weapon. Sparks flew, metal cracked. The tunnel echoed with the sound of fists and fire. Aria pulled the others back. Stay low, move around them. They rushed to the side of the tunnel while Saren and the general fought like titans. One was made of steel and orders, the other of pain and memory. With a roar, Saren lifted the general and threw him against the wall. The alien coughed black liquid, armor broken. You are free now, Saren said quietly. Then he turned away, but the general was not finished. He pulled a sharp blade from his waist and lunged at Aria from behind. Saren saw it. He moved like lightning, shoving her aside and taking the full hit. The blade sank deep into his back. Aria screamed. The other humans gasped. Single quotes. Ren dropped to one knee, growling in pain. The general grinned. Even a monster can bleed. But before he could strike again, a sudden loud thump echoed behind them. The tunnel door burst open. Another creature stepped through. Not Varnex, not human. But tall, thin, and wrong, that had no face. Its skin shifted like smoke. It was the thing from the fog. The Whisperer. Everyone froze. Even the Varnex general looked afraid. The Whisperer slid across the floor like it floated. It moved to the general and reached out a hand. No, the Varnex said, not me. But it was too late. The Whisperer touched him and his body froze. His mouth opened wide, but no scream came, just silence. His body turned gray. Then, gone. The Whisperer turned slowly toward the others. Aria stood frozen. The others backed away, but Saren stepped forward, wounded but tall. The Whisperer looked at him and tilted its head. It whispered, not with sound, but in every mind. You remember? So do I. Then it turned and vanished into the wall. No sound, no trace. Gone again. The tunnel was quiet. Aria ran to Saren and helped him stand. You saved me. You saved me first, he said weakly. The others helped too now. Even the man who once tried to stab him. You okay? The woman asked. Saren nodded slowly. Aria looked around. We need to get out of here. Saren pointed toward the back of the tunnel. There's an old escape bay. Ships, maybe one still works. They followed his lead. The path grew narrower. Old lights flickered above. Broken pipes hissed. Smell of oil and smoke filled the air. Finally, they reached a large metal door with a cracked screen beside it. Saren touched the panel. Nothing happened. He sighed. Then he placed his hand on the center, his skin glowing slightly. The door unlocked. Inside was a long room with 2 escape pods. One was smashed, its hull broken. The other looked old but still whole. Aria ran to it. This might still fly. The others checked it quickly. One working pod, the older man said. 4 of us. Aria looked at Ren. His body leaned against the wall, bleeding, tired. You come to, she said. He shook his head. No, he whispered. I will slow you down. You must go. We can wait. Find another way. She started. He smiled slightly. There is no other way. The woman stepped up. We send the injured first. Aria, you go to. Someone has to report what happened. Aria's voice cracked. And we wait. We'll find another way, the man said. But they all knew it was a lie. Saren opened the pod door. Aria stared at him. Why do you keep saving me? She asked. He looked at her gently. Because once someone saved me, I never forgot. Tears filled her eyes. She stepped into the pod slowly. The others helped the wounded. Woman in 2. The hatch closed. From the small window, Aria saw Saren standing tall. Even though he was in pain, she placed her hand on the glass. He raised his in return. Then the pod launched. As it flew up through the dark tunnel toward the stars, Aria looked down until the prison disappeared from sight. She whispered, I'll come back, I promise. The escape pod shook as it moved through space, but Aria didn't care. She sat quietly, staring out the window, her heart still back in the prison. The stars passed by like cold fireflies. Beside her, the wounded woman rested. The pod was silent. Aria's mind was not. She couldn't stop thinking about Saren, how he stood, bleeding, between her and danger. How he never attacked first. How he remembered a lullaby from a past he was never allowed to keep. He was not a monster. He was never a monster, and she had left him behind. The pod landed on a human ship 2 hours later. Soldiers and doctors rushed in, pulling them out quickly. Aria tried to explain what happened, but no one listened. They gave her water, checked her blood, asked cold questions, then they locked her in a clean white room. Later a general came to speak to her. He had sharp eyes and a voice that never changed. "You're lucky to be alive," he said. "The Varnex prison was considered unreachable. We believed all inside were dead." Aria replied, "There are more prisoners down there, humans, and one of them saved my life." The general raised an eyebrow. "A Varnex saved you?" "No," she said, "not Varnex, not fully human either. But he protected me. He bled for me." The general leaned closer. "Describe it." She told him everything about Saren, the creature in the fog, the memory device, the escape. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "Interesting. We know of this creature, a failed experiment, long forgotten." "He's not a failure," Aria said firmly. "He's alive. He remembers. He cares." The general stood. "If what you say is true, we will retrieve the body and study it." Aria's eyes went wide. "No, he's not dead." But the general didn't answer. He turned and left. Aria sat alone. Her fists clenched. Her chest burned with anger. They would go back not to save Saran but to use him again. She wouldn't let that happen. 3 days later, a team was sent to the prison. Aria was not invited, but she escaped. She stole a uniform, a mask, and entered the loading bay with a medical group. Nobody noticed her. They were too busy preparing for danger. The humans believed something terrible still lived down there, and they were right. The dropship descended fast inside. Aria stayed silent, sitting in the back, heart pounding. When they landed, the team split into 2 groups, one to search for survivors, the other to recover useful material. Aria broke off from both. She ran through the tunnels she remembered, deeper and deeper into the prison. The fog was back, but it wasn't thick, just a light mist now. The walls were quiet. No screaming. No whispers. Just silence. "Saren," she called out softly. "It's me, Aria." No answer. She reached the escape pod bay. Empty. The smashed pod still sat in pieces, burned and broken. But Saron was not there then. From the far wall came a sound. Slow footsteps. She turned and saw him. He was different now. Taller, his skin darker, marked with lines that pulsed with soft light. His body looked stronger, rebuilt somehow, but his eyes still the same. Still tired, still kind. Aria ran to him. "You're alive," she said, breathless. He nodded. "I waited. You healed." "I changed," he replied. "The whisperer touched me but did not take. It showed me more. It gave me back myself." She blinked. "The creature in the fog. Yes, it is not evil. It is memory. It eats pain, but it can also give it back." Aria looked into his eyes. "You remember everything now?" He nodded. "Even my first name, before Saron." "What was it?" she asked. He smiled gently. "Liam." She smiled too. "That's a good name." Footsteps echoed near. Soldiers. The recovery team was coming. "We have to leave," Aria said quickly. Saran Liam looked around. "There is another way. Not escape, not prison, but peace." She frowned. "What do you mean?" "I can lead them out. The ones still trapped. I know the paths now. The fog no longer hides from me." Aria held his hand. "Then I'll help." "No," he said gently. "You already have. The world will believe you. You can stop them from turning this into a lab again." She wanted to argue, but she saw it in his face. He had made peace with the darkness. She had to make peace with the world. Liam placed a small metal disc in her hand, a memory chip. "Give them this," he said. "Let them see who I was." Aria stared at it, heart heavy. "Will I ever see you again?" Liam stepped back into the fog. "If you remember me, I am never truly gone." Then the mist swallowed him, and he was gone again. The memory chip glowed faintly in Aria's hand as she stepped into the council chamber. A long glass table sat in the middle, surrounded by officers, scientists, and generals. All their eyes were on her. She placed the chip on the table. "This is what he gave me," she said. "This is what you need to see." One of the technicians connected it to the room's main screen. The lights dimmed. And then the memory played. Not of war, not of violence, but of Liam before the experiments, before the pain. A boy laughing on a small green planet. A woman hugging him tightly. A soft song playing in the background. A simple melody. A lullaby. Then the memories shifted. They saw how he was changed, how alien DNA was forced into him, how machines drilled and scanned and reprogrammed his mind, how the Varnex took him after humans gave up on him. And finally, they saw Aria reaching for him in the cell, holding his hand, protecting him when others feared him. The room was silent. No one moved, no one spoke. A long moment passed, then one of the generals stood up. "This creature," he started. "His name is Liam," Aria said calmly. The general paused. "Liam chose not to kill when he could have. That means something." Another officer leaned forward. "And he saved humans." Repeatedly, a scientist added. "If what we saw is true, he found a way to resist his original programming. That means his mind is his own." Aria nodded. "He was never a monster. We're just lost." The council whispered quietly among themselves. Some were still unsure, but others had seen the truth after the meeting. Aria was pulled aside by a woman in uniform. "You did the right thing," she said, "but the government will never allow him to walk free." "Then I'll make the people believe in him first," Aria said. One voice becomes many. The woman smiled. You're brave. No, Aria replied. He is 3 months later. Earth had changed. News of the prison rescue spread fast. So did the story of Liam the hybrid who chose peace. Many called to him a hero. Others called him a lie. But no one could ignore the memory recordings. They were too human, too real. Aria stood at a new building site outside New Geneva. A large dome was being built from strong glass and steel. Not a prison, not a lab, a refuge center. It was meant for survivors of war, alien or human, and Liam had helped design it. She looked at the digital message board beside the gate, designed in memory of those who were created for war but chose peace. The workers nearby were unloading boxes. Then she saw him, taller than before, wearing a dark robe with metal cuffs, but his face calm, his eyes soft. Liam. He was helping lift heavy parts of the dome with his bare hands. The workers weren't afraid of him. In fact, one little girl walked up and handed him a flower. He knelt down and took it carefully, as if it were made of glass. Then he placed it behind his ear and smiled. Aria's heart filled with quiet joy. She walked over. You're late, she teased. I stopped to help someone who lost a transport pod, he replied. Still the same Liam, she said. He looked around. Not the same world. No, Aria said. But it's getting better. He nodded because we remembered. She sat beside him on a low wall as the sun began to set. Children played in the field nearby. Humans, aliens, hybrids, no guards, no cages, just people. After a long pause, Liam asked, Do you ever think about the prison? Every day, Aria replied. Do you think the Whisperer is still there? Aria looked up at the sky. Maybe, or maybe it finally slept. Liam didn't answer. He just watched the sky. Then she asked, if they ever come back, the Varnex, what will you do? Liam smiled softly. Whatever it takes to protect this. Aria reached into her bag and handed him something. It was the old music chip. He took it and held it gently. Then he pressed play. The lullaby played again, this time, peaceful, full of memory. And the wind carried it across the grass. Final scene later that night. As stars filled the sky, Liam walked alone into the quiet field. He looked up. The stars were watching, but they didn't scare him anymore. He was not a weapon. He was not forgotten. He was Liam, the one who remembered, and the one who chose to protect heaven in the darkness.